Alert! This podcast is powered by coffee, dad jokes, and the mysterious ability to fall asleep during movie night. Keep snacks and remote controls nearby at all times.
Hey, welcome back to Dad Space, podcast for dads by dads. It's Dave. I'm your host from Ontario, Canada. I feel like I'm being announced into the ring. From Ontario, Canada, weighing in at less than 200 pounds. Way less. Scruffy beard and all. Here's Dave, the host of Dad Space. Hi, ding ding. I'm here. I'm in the ring. Let's go. I want to talk today about raising daughters, modeling respect and kindness as a dad. If you have a daughter, this podcast is for you. Thanks for being here. Here we go. Now, I have the pleasure of having a daughter, and I love her. She's great. Her name is Hadley, Hadlee. Isn't that a great name? Hadley. It's a great name. You can borrow it if you want. It's a gorgeous name, and I think being a girl dad has definitely changed a lot about how I show up in the world as a guy. My daughter, when she was little, my wife was thrilled because we had a boy, and then we had Hadley, and then we had another boy. So she was the gem in the middle of two boys. And my wife was thrilled because she had a girl, someone she could bond with. But interesting enough, when it came to like styling her hair and doing all that stuff, which my wife was anticipating would be her role, no. Guess who got to do that? Me. As if I have skills and talents. But I got to do all of the ponytails. Okay. Growing up, that was my job, was the ponytails, to the point where my wife would volunteer to help with said ponytail. But my daughter's response, Hadley would be like, no, daddy do it. And I got the evil eye from my wife because that was what she wanted to do. But I was apparently dubbed the expert on ponytails, of which I was terrible at when I first started, but I got used to it. I got at it after a while. I figured it out. It's not that hard. But we had a great relationship growing up. A lot of snuggles in the chair at bedtime. We were really close, the two of us. And I say we were because life changes as far as your kids grow up and they move on to new relationships. They move out of the house. They move on to their life. And you don't have this scale of time with your daughter. And it's sad. It really is. You miss having those times together. And I can remember times when we stopped doing certain things, like sitting with me in my chair, or sitting on my lap, or hugs, or snuggles, all those things. Once they get older, it's a little weird, and they pull away. They're trying to find their own identity, and they create a gap. And that gap is haunting. It hurts, because you know that part of your life, when they were little and squishy and, everything was fun, is over. And they've moved on, which they're supposed to. I don't think it would be appropriate to be snuggling with my daughter on the couch when she's 30, but in my heart, she's always my little girl. And I think that having a daughter, if you're going to be having a daughter as a dad and you're listening to this, hold on, Buttercup, because you got a lot ahead of you. You're going to find a new gear. Like, when I drive standard manual transmission for my car. There's always, you shift gears when you're driving. You don't just sit there on a couch holding a steering wheel. I like driving a car that has gears. And when you have a daughter, when the doctor tells you, or the baby's born and it's like, it's a girl, you find a completely different gear that you didn't even know you had as a guy. And I love having a daughter. So if you are blessed with a daughter, then great. If all you have is daughters, then my gosh, you should have a podcast, because that's a different world altogether. So we've had the balance of boys and girls in our home, and it's been awesome. But my relationship with my daughter, great memories, great memories. And I'm encouraging and imploring you as a dad to pour into your relationship with your daughter. And that's kind of the foundation of why I wanted to do this episode, and just how we as dads can model respect and kindness for our daughters to look at be influenced by, and use as a measuring stick for all of the relationships they're going to encounter in life. We kind of model and set that foundation. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get into this. As fathers, we're often the first men that our daughters look to for clues about how the world works, how this big globe spins around, right? And your actions speak louder than words, setting the bar for how they expect to be treated and how they should treat others. So I want to break down some practical steps that you can do to start today as far as your relationship with your daughter. And first starts with why dads matter in modeling these traits of kindness and respect. Why does it matter for us to do that for our kids? Fathers shape their daughters' views of relationships from day one. By showing respect, treating people with fairness, dignity, and empathy, you're actually teaching your daughter to demand the same in her own life from the people that she comes in contact with later on. Kindness isn't an innate thing. It is a skill that kids learn by watching you respond patiently to frustration. I see you flipping people off in your car and in the traffic there. I see you. Your kids respond by watching you patiently respond to frustration and how you help neighbors or listen without judgment. You're teaching so many things to your kids by how you show up. I remember when our kids were little, we lived next door to a gentleman who was a lot older than we were at the time, and he lived alone, and he had a lot of health issues. He had a large property, and it was always overgrown and kind of an eyesore. When we moved in, we befriended him, and he loved my kids. He would draw pictures for them. He was a kind soul, but he had so much going on physically that he just could not take care of his property. And I just kind of took it on myself to start, every time I took care of my lawn, I took care of his lawn, which was a lot of work to do both, I got to tell you. And it was my gas, it was my mower, it was my time. And I remember neighbors leaning over the fence asking me, like, what are you doing this for? This guy was never going to pay you. Why do you care? And I just thought, wow, really? Like, you're going to berate me for helping somebody to take care of their yard so that they could stay in their house longer without the city coming by or something happening where they're going to get in trouble for not taking care of their property? And I thought, like, why don't you, I remember saying to one neighbor, I'm like, why don't you hop over the fence and give me a hand? And they're like, oh, I'll never do that. This guy doesn't do anything for anybody. I'm like, well, for the most part, he's tied to his house. He can't go anywhere. And I just remember thinking, how did we get to this point where people complain and they don't act? And as I'm working on this, I can remember looking back at my house, seeing my kids playing in the yard or watching me out from the window, watching me. And I'm like, what lessons am I teaching my kids without even realize, like, I'm not doing this for show, but what lessons are coming to them about caring for your neighbors as they watch their father cut our own grass and then hop over the fence and take care of the neighbor. And as I look back at that, I can see that was an influence for my kids. And I think that we as dads need to model what we want our kids to pick up on. And if you're modeling negative things to your kids, that'll be the result. That's what they're going to emulate. So I'm thinking of you today, and what can you do, big or small, to model what we're talking about here, that you want to model for your kids kindness and respect? What can you do? Is it taking care of the neighbor's yard? Here in Canada, we have snow. Shoveling out your neighbor's driveway for someone who can't get out? What is it that you can do to help and be an example in front of your family about what it's like to live with intention? That's going to become their foundation and how they're going to make judgments with everyone else around them. Children imitate what they see, especially when they see in their dads. When you model respect towards your partner, your wife, your partner, when you model respect towards strangers, or even in traffic, like I said before, it your daughter internalizes this as a normal way of doing life. This builds her confidence to spot unhealthy dynamics, the opposite of her dad. And it also fosters generosity that ripples throughout her life. This is a foundational moment, a teachable moment, instruction without words that's happening. And I think as dads, we just need to start small. Notice how you talk to service workers, the person who brings you dinner at the restaurant, the one that gives you your coffee at the coffee shop, the person that holds the stop sign so the kids can walk across the crosswalk. How are you interacting with the day-to-day people that you meet? These are the people in your neighborhood moments. And how you handle disagreements with people, even within your own home. Your daughter absorbs all of it. And it turns the everyday habits become her lifelong compass, becomes what gives her direction because she saw it modeled. She took what she liked and she wants to live it out in her way. You become the epitome of respect and kindness in how you live your life. Here's some practical ways to model respect daily. For your daughter, treat your partner as your equal. Treat your partner as your equal. Your partner doesn't exist to serve you. Treat your partner as an equal. Use kind words. Share chores without grudging. And show affection openly. Don't hide it. I love talking about building in public. Build your marriage, your relationship with your partner in public. This demonstrates mutual respect and equality, and it helps her envision a healthy partnership for her as she becomes an adult. She has a baseline to decide if a relationship she's in at the moment is healthy based on what she's seen growing up or not healthy, and a change needs to happen. So treat your partner as an equal and honor boundaries. Listen when she says no. Respect her opinions, even if they differ from you as a dad, and apologize. And do it sincerely when you really screw up. When you screw it up bad and you make a big mistake, apologize. Patience here teaches her self-worth. You are modeling what you hope for her to model in her life. And show empathy everywhere. Acknowledge others' feelings. Things like, that must be tough for them. And then act on it. When you see somebody struggling, you call it out and then you act. You don't just call it out and move on. You call it out and then you add action. Like helping an elderly neighbor, helping my neighbor who couldn't take care of his yard. She will mirror this compassion and it becomes her default setting because she saw it in you. Quality time amplifies all of these things. Sit at her level for play dates and chats. Don't sit above her where she's cranking her neck to see you and connect with you eyeball to eyeball. Get down on her level. Role play scenarios like sharing toys to practice respect in action. Your patience and presence proves that she matters. I've talked about this on the show, and if it's your first time being here, thanks for being here. I talk about my relationship with my granddaughter, Delilah, where we play, we do stuff, we sit together, we do all this fun stuff. And then I always say to her, I think your daddy needs a hug. And she jumps off my chair and runs over to her dad, my son, big hugs. I want her to grow up demonstrating that love is something that needs to be displayed. And love is best given. And I want her to grow up in that environment. So that's my little thing to A, acknowledge her father, my son, but B, instill in my granddaughter that she has a lot of love to give and she needs to be aware of people who need it. So that's what I'm trying to do with her. We need to build kindness throughout our family habits in our home. Kindness thrives on repetition. When we call out her good deeds, the things she does without expectation of a result. Things like, that was so kind for you to share your markers with your little brother. Wow, that was great that you shared that toy. Thank you for cleaning up after that. Your mom and I appreciate that you took your dishes to the sink. Thank you for that, right? Read books about empathy together and discuss why the characters chose to be empathetic and to be kind. Talk about the book beyond reading what's on the page. There's big ideas that need to be unpacked, and they need to see how you navigate applying a story to real life. And make it collaborative. Brainstorm. Acts like baking for somebody, like a neighbor who can't bake. Maybe we bake something together and we take it over to them and let them see the joy of them, your daughter, giving the item to the neighbor, or leaving notes for the siblings or for mom that we work on together, dad and daughter. Showing things where we can do things that show kindness and respect for others. We can model it by how we act and coming up with creative ways to do this. Even little things like encouraging our daughter to say, Mom, thanks for handling dinner tonight. It helps all of us. It was a great meal. Thank you for your efforts. I love you. All those things. If we can model that for our daughter, think about what could happen in her relationships going forward. And then extend it outward. Like we talked about, shovel your neighbor's walkway, rake the leaves, cut the grass, water their plants. I don't know, whatever it is they need. This builds habits that carry into school years and beyond school years, proving that kindness starts close by. The key takeaway I want to leave with you as a dad of a daughter is that your daily respect and kindness isn't just nice things to do or be. They're the blueprint for your daughter's world. And as we model it relentlessly and we watch her build her life of strong, compassionate connections, we instill in her kindness and respect. I think that we have a huge mountain ahead of us that we need to climb. And that's building trust with our daughter, being a source of strength for her, letting her see that we're a human being, that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're not Superman, as much as we'd like to be. She needs to see the real us. And by seeing the real us, she finds out who the real person she is and who she's meant to be. Keep that communication open. And even as your children age out of your home, like what's happened for me, stay in your kids' world. Let them know you're thinking of them. Let them know you care. And be that dad, whether they're under your roof or they've grown out of your home. Make sure that your parenting does not stop. It's going to change, but you're always dad to that beautiful daughter of yours. And if you're having a daughter and you just found out, congratulations. You have a great road ahead of you, and I'm wishing you well. Stick around with Dad Space because we've got a lot more stories to help you to be a better dad. I know your kids are going to love the fact that you're here and you're learning how to do dad better. Thanks for being here.